Welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. Happy Friday to all you guys. I know a lot of you guys are going to be drafting this weekend, so we got one last episode to get you guys prepped here for the second to last draft weekend before the NFL season kicks off. I'm Nick Sparts. I've got Dan Thury across the table from me.
At Thury BFF, in the middle of a draft as we speak.
And to my left, Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF with two Ps, not in the middle of the draft, but with three of them coming up this weekend. What's up, guys?
All right, and then on the line, we've got Anthony Cervino. Technically his second time on the show. None of you heard it because we lost the episode, but we had some fun with it. He's a head pen pusher at Gridiron Experts, NFC South beat writer and ranker for Fantasy Pros, also co-host of the FF Faceoff and Pro Wrestling Review. Welcome, Anthony.
How's it going, guys?
Wait, you do a pro wrestling podcast?
Yeah, I do. I have no voice because I was at SummerSlam.
That is fantastic, dude. I'm a big WWE fan, so I'm a fan of that.
I think you guys may have had this exact same discussion last time.
I think we probably did.
Yeah, I think we did.
Well, we're rehashing it for you that didn't get to hear that episode, which would be everybody that's not on this episode.
All right. Well, thank you so much for jumping on, Anthony. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and hit the beer preview. As always, recap some more games from week 2. And then we're going to play the game that we call, my mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yes, a.k.a. a reach around. Shout out to Fantasy Football Weekly for coming up with the concept. Guys were willing to take a round earlier than their current ADP is at. Before that, though, shout out to all our social media. You can follow us at BeerFieldFF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. Beerfield Fantasy Football for YouTube and Facebook.
Like, rate, subscribe, leave a review, unsubscribe, and resubscribe.
That'll just make us feel weird.
Yeah, well, but do it anyway. But mostly leave reviews and comment on stuff. Interact with us.
Yeah, the more you interact, the more it helps us out. We appreciate all of it, so thank you so much for those of you who do.
Let's be friends.
Let's go ahead and hit a beer preview.
Beer Fuel.
And before we get into ours, always have to ask the guests, are you drinking anything there, Anthony?
Just coffee.
Just coffee? All right. Well, staying up with us, I appreciate
that. I'm not a
that.
big beer drinker.
Attaboy. What kind of coffee you got?
I have a Starbucks blend.
Okay, cool. Good
From
stuff.
the Keurig.
Good stuff.
We did do a joke coffee episode once. I think that was episode 40 or something.
It was.
All right. So
It was a morning episode for whatever reason.
I just can't believe how in-depth beer is in 2018. It amazes me.
Yeah.
Like when I was younger, I was 21. I'm 33. I don't remember IPAs. There was just like your standard beers, and now it's like, whoa.
This is
And
episode.
my wife knows all about it. My wife knows a lot more than I do.
This is episode 160, and we haven't duplicated a beer.
Wow.
We're doing pretty good.
We're doing all right.
All right. So for our beer, we've got from Saugatuck Brewing Company, their second time on, Neapolitan Milk Stout, which we are very excited for. Saugatuck's based out of Douglas, Michigan. It's located right on Lake Michigan. It's 45 minutes southwest of Grand Rapids. Neapolitan Milk Stout clocks in at 6% ABV. It's a mix of vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry flavors.
Hence Neapolitan.
Yep. I'm excited for this. But before we get to all that, lots of game recaps before we hit a beer review.
Finish up week 2.
Yep.
What the hell happened?
All right, so hopefully you've been listening to the last 5 episodes, so you know this game by this point. We're going to go ahead and jump through each of the games. One of us will take point, tell us what happened. The rest of us are going to ask them questions, or if we also watch the game, throw in any other thoughts that we have on it. Once again, it's a Dan-heavy episode since he missed Monday. Dan, kick us off with Bears at the Broncos.
All right, we'll start with the Bears here. Taylor Gabriel did not play, at least from what I've seen. I didn't see anything in the stats or see him out there. Hopper, is that true, I'm assuming?
I thought I saw him take one route, but he wasn't out there for very long.
Okay. Moving on to Trubisky, he looked okay. Made a couple nice throws, made a couple poor throws. Made a ridiculously poor decision throw where he threw off his back foot and sidearm for an interception. Played late into the second quarter. It finishes day, though, 9 of 14 for 90 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. So, a little bit of growing pains, but he continues to still improve and look like he could maybe take that next step, which is what we want to see.
Thought he looked generally better than worse most of the game.
Yeah. So significantly better than last year, then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Chase Daniels came in, flashed a little bit. He played, I think, the majority of the game.
He was all right.
He looked all right. As for the running backs, roles are set here as well. Jordan Howard, when he had a nice offensive line and was blocking for him, he looked good. He had a nice 17-yard run. He was able to make plays even when the line kind of didn't give him up, didn't give him any holes or lanes to run through. He was at least able to salvage a 2 to 3 yard gain instead of
He wasn't going
-1.
backwards at all.
No
No,
negative
there was
plays.
no stretch plays. There was one run out of the shotgun, which was like, all right, I understand.
Yeah, but he wasn't going backwards at all. The
Which is-
offensive line has looked like it's struggled a bit in preseason.
It has.
I think that's been common among the entire NFL at this point.
Yeah. And then Trey Cohen didn't have a carry, but he saw 3 targets, caught 1. Taquan Mizell?
Taquan Mizell.
Taquan Mizell starting to flash. He flashed in the first 2 weeks of preseason. He didn't do much out of the backfield, but he was the third running back out there. He had 8 targets, 7 receptions with 29 yards, and a touchdown. So if something happens to Cohen, he may be a name to potentially look out for.
He's more of a, from what I've saw in the first 2 preseason games, he's actually more of a Howard handcuff. There just wasn't a lot of running room for either of the third string running backs in this one with Mizell and Nall, but he is more of a, based on size and everything.
Yeah.
He's dynamic in both facets. When I was looking at rookies for guys that were, receiving, rushing stats, guys that were good dual threat backs in college, Mizell's name kept popping up all over the place.
Yeah, and then speaking of right now, he's the 4th back out there. He didn't see a whole lot of time for what I've seen. He made a couple cuts, looked a little bit slow getting into the line, so maybe a step backward from week 2, but he's still having an overall okay preseason. As for the receivers, Robinson was just a body out there for most of the game. Miller had 3 targets. He had a really nice 50-50 catch. Just looked phenomenal and showing his highlights, everything else. Kevin White played with the ones. I think he was the starting outside receiver. He went in and extended his time with the 2s and 3s just to get more reps out there, but he continues to at least look like something.
He's looked solid in both preseason contests so far. The route running looks crisp. He looks quick.
So just 2 questions. One, does it look like Miller may have passed White in terms of pecking order?
See, it's tough because White plays outside. I think this could be what they want to do with Taylor Gabriel if they want to keep him outside. But it sounds like they want to keep Miller, in the slot and let him work in that way. Where White, I think we'll see more outside work, maybe spell Miller.
I think we're going to learn a lot this week on those 2 because Miller and White have both looked solid. I think White's been targeted more than Miller has.
I believe that's right.
Over the last 2 games. So,
all right. And then
Do any of you guys think that the Bears wide receiver core is too crowded?
it's starting to feel that way a little bit. The Shaheen injury may help Burton a little bit, but I'm starting to get a little worried about is there enough volume to go around with Trubisky to feed everybody?
a little bit, especially if Kevin White stays healthy. It's just speaking as the resident Bears fan. I don't expect this to be a high volume passing offense. You got Cohen who's going to demand targets. You got Burton that's going to demand targets. And then you're trying to find room for Robinson, potentially healthy Kevin White, Anthony Miller, and Taylor Gabriel. These things have a weird way of sorting themselves out through injury most of the time. But as of right now, I could see, Allen Robinson and then maybe an exchange between White and Gabriel, or White, Gabriel, and Miller on a week-to-week basis as far as who do you want to own.
Yeah, and then speaking of just even more depth, this receiving core, Wims, who was the week 1 darling in the Hall of Fame game, didn't see time until the 4th quarter. So, he has his position on the depth chart, but he's not going to climb it anytime soon.
Yeah, they jumped him up to the 2s last week, and he struggled, and he fell right back down with the 4s.
Okay, well, that speaks for itself then.
Still no Josh Bellamy anymore, though.
Then the tight end, Shaheen, got himself hurt on his lone target and reception for 5 yards, though it sounds like it isn't as serious as what they carted off the field made it look like. Burton led all first-team rep guys with 5 targets, finishing 4 for 45 and a touchdown. He looks like him and Trubisky have started to build that rapport and starting to see what Nagy put together with Smith and Kelsey, where Burton's playing the Kelsey role.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He bumped up. How can I put this? His stat line bumped up for me. I didn't jump him a position in my rankings because he's already top 10. So,
yeah,
where do you have Burton ranked?
You got him 9 or 10
right now. He's 9.
Yeah, I've been on the Burton bandwagon since Philadelphia, and I was saying this during the season. that Burton, wherever he was going to go, he was going to make an impact. And I think he's in my top 5 or 6 right now.
Jeez.
I'd have a hard time putting him ahead of
I've been
Olsen, Graham,
heavy
and
on
Rudolph.
Trey Burton. And Adam Shaheen, he's diagnosed with a sprained foot right now. And he could be tagged as an injury-prone player because he was banged up all last season too.
I don't see a way that Trey Burton could go above 8 for me. I've got him right now with Ingram and Kittle and Reed. So,
Yeah, I
don't
highest I could put him is about 9 as well.
I don't think I can jump him ahead of Olsen, Graham, and Rudolph.
Yeah, I just
put
got
him in that
I have
tier.
some questions about his athletic profile and just the thing you brought up a moment ago, Anthony, about just volume to go around here. He may not see the target volume we're looking for. And Robinson is a very, very good red zone target, and if White can stay healthy, he would be too.
Hey, his big body.
Yeah, I have a little more faith with Burton just because of what Nagy was able to get from Kelsey and Smith in his time there, which at least we're starting to at least see some of that. I haven't bumped Burton back up in my rankings since I faded him a little bit with the Shaheen hype in the first couple games of preseason.
Burton could very well be the number 2 option behind Robinson.
He could be.
Yeah, he very well could be.
Because we don't know if Trubisky's a real deal, and that's my biggest knock here is if Trubisky can't make the throws or if he begins to struggle early, the tight end might be the check down.
Trubisky to me looks like he's a quarterback learning a new offense more than anything, and I think that it's going to get better as the season progresses. So, but that's just kind of my take on it. He hasn't shown the same struggles he showed as a rookie. It just looks like Nick mentioned some concerns early in the offseason about how long it's going to take for this to mesh, and it looks like it's meshing. It's growing pains, which preseason's the time to figure that out. So, Interested to watch them this week.
Moving on to the Broncos. The only person of note that did not play was Demaryius Thomas. He was a late scratch to that game.
Wrist injury.
But he's back at practice. Everything's fine. As for the quarterbacks, Keenum looked meh. You're starting to see some of the struggles that we saw as Vikings fans last year and just overall as people who watched his game last year. His accuracy, especially downfield, was a little bit shaky. He did make some nice throws, especially when he settled in. But overall, show favorite AK-47, I thought outplayed him.
Probably
he
in
came in the late.
competition, but-
Yeah, he did play. In the late seconds, so he's not playing against the ones. But in terms of the nice throws, in terms of the velocity, even some of the pocket presence and the downfield accuracy went into Kelly's favor, including his beautiful touchdown pass to Courtland Sutton, who made a great play as well in the end zone. He is undoubtedly the 2. Paxton Lynch is nothing more than a bag of dog shit that needs to be cut.
He was just flat-footed, no pocket awareness, not really progressing through his reads.
I mean, at this point, there's a 0 chance he's going to get it together in the Broncos. He needs to go
He
somewhere
needs to
else
leave
and
somewhere else.
try to kind of rebuild his psyche, get his mechanics in order, and try to figure things out. But it's not going to happen in Denver.
No.
Well, Chad Kelly looks like the best quarterback on the roster. Weird.
Though it will be Keenum to start. Obviously, they paid him the money for it, but
If he
maybe that
struggles-
leash, maybe his leash. If he struggles early on, especially if the Broncos struggle, maybe Kelly could find himself some playing time this season. As for the running backs, Booker got the start, but that's pretty much all that needs to be said about him. Royce had a nice touchdown run. He didn't have the wide open lengths that he had in his first week against the Vikings. But he still looked like the best running back, especially on first and second down. He's flashing everything that we all continue to see. Even if it doesn't happen in every single run, which isn't going to happen for any running back anyways. And then as for Phillip Lindsay, who's been getting some hype, undrafted free agent, I think he looks better than Booker. You guys mentioned this on the previous episode, which I did listen to both of them. And I agree with a lot of the takes there. I think he should be the 2 there. I think he should be the third down back.
Did you say you didn't agree with a lot of the
No, I
takes?
said I did.
Oh, okay.
I did agree with a lot of takes.
You guys are terrible
You guys
without
sucked.
me. You guys suck.
Thanks for the download, buddy.
And then as for the receivers, without Demaryius Thomas and Deshaun Hamilton got the start alongside Emmanuel Sanders. So that may be of note, even though Sutton had the flash play. I think Hamilton had 3 targets himself, and he was done when the ones were done. I think Sutton was still out there. Sanders had 7 targets, though, but he only got 3 of them for 27 yards. So we're starting to see the Keenum falling in love with his 1s and 2s. And then as for tight ends, I don't think Jake Butt play.
I didn't see Jake Budd. I didn't see Troy Fumagalli.
But Jeff Heuerman, Hireman. He was the first tight end out there. He made a couple of nice plays, including a man's play, broke off a couple tackles and gained a few extra yards.
He did.
And then he had a 2-point conversion for a touchdown that looked good.
2-point conversion for a touchdown?
2-point conversion for their first touchdown.
There we go.
There you go.
Whatever.
There you go.
You know, for me, words are hard.
He's so good.
He's so good.
Got the point value bumped up.
So
I'll see when I believe it.
so should we be fading Jake Butt at this point if it looks like Heuerman is going to take over?
I mean, I'm not really high on anybody from the tight ends or any of the tight ends for the Broncos, but if we can, figure something out.
Hireman looks like he's starting.
Hireman looks like he's the guy
Butt
to start the year.
stuff is going to have to wait.
All right.
There are tons of people high on Jake Butt.
Oh yeah.
I don't quite get it. I traded in a dynasty league Jake Butt for a 2019 second.
Can I join that league?
Yeah, please. I'll take that.
It blew my mind, and I couldn't say no, and I wanted to stash him, but how am I going to turn that down?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that his upside's probably a Jack Doyle type of player, but he was injured year one. He hasn't really shown it yet this year. So I know tight ends take a while to develop those, so I wouldn't write him off yet. But yeah, that was a good move on your part.
He was getting some hype as a higher end tight end in a very strong tight end class last year before he got injured. So I think that's where some people are still lingering on, is that he could show some of the athletic flashes that he showed as a Jack Doyle type of tight end.
Yeah, but even if he turns into Jack Doyle, if he's Jack Doyle, that's already just a second in a single tight end league.
Yeah,
that's true. No, and that's why I think that Anthony got a really good deal.
The guy paid for his ceiling.
Yeah.
All right. Enough about that game. Let's kick it off to Bengals at the Cowboys. Bengals kick us off here. Andy Dalton was off this entire game. He nearly threw a terrible pick and then missed A.J. Green deep multiple times. We just overthrew him. It looked like he never played with A.J. Green before, which is not a good sign. And they had him in through the second quarter just trying to get things right, and it never really clicked for him.
So what's Andy Dalton's outlook in Cincinnati if he struggles again?
Well, Marvin Lewis is still there, so I assume Dalton's probably got another 5-year leash. Joe Mixon was the only back in the game until late in the second quarter. Wasn't super impressive, but based on snaps, he seems to have the job on lockdown.
Yeah, how'd Gio look?
Gio, pretty meh. I didn't see a ton out of him overall. He had one nice run. Beyond that, it was pretty mediocre. He missed a block that caused a sack on Driscoll.
Driscoll sacks himself.
Jeez, he's running time. I'm a little shocked that he didn't get more work with the ones.
I think they're trying to get Mixon going.
That has to be the only reason.
Yeah, he basically had no work with the ones, and then I think he had like 2 or 3 snaps in the first half. Moving on to the third running back competition between Drake Carson and Mark Walton. Carson looks to be the better back of the two, unfortunately, because I was a big Mark Walton fan. But Carson looks to be a significantly better runner and almost even a better pass catcher between the two. Normally, I wouldn't note a running back 5, but Brian Hill came in late in the fourth quarter and on one drive just played out of his mind. He had 4 touches.
Rookie from last year.
You know what? I didn't mention that. He was the Falcons last year.
Yeah,
I didn't mention that on last week's episode, but Brian Hill did flash last week also.
Yeah, he came in. He had 5 touches on a single drive. One was a 30-yard catch and run. He had a 15-yard carry on the drive, and then he also had a nice touchdown reception out of the flat.
He's going to earn himself something because I thought he outplayed Walton last week as well, and I thought he.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked way better than Walton for sure, and he was. I mean, it was probably lower competition, but I thought he looked better than Carson too.
I thought he looked better than Walton. I thought he looked better than Carson. And I thought that as a runner, he looked a little bit better than Mixon.
Yeah.
I mean, different levels of competition, obviously, but you get it.
Yeah, he came in and just jumped off the page.
Good.
Passing game was rough. John Ross, Josh Malone appear to be locked in as the number 2 and number 3. Of the 2, Ross flashed more in this one. He had a nice catch and run on one play, and then he's converted a 2-point conversion.
Malone flashed more last week. Watch it in week 3.
Yep, but so 2 of them are
more
fighting
of the
for
same.
it. I'm not super excited for either one.
I'm glad Tyler Boyd's not in that discussion anymore.
Nope, he was running with the 2s almost exclusively. Any other questions on the Bengals?
No.
Nope. All right, jumping on to the Cowboys.
One other. Any Eifert in this one?
Eifert did not play.
Okay.
Shocker.
Dak had a mixed
Right?
Dak had a very mixed game, awful throws and consistently leaving his feet during the release. So much so that my girlfriend noticed that he was leaving his feet on every single throw.
Really?
Who does not watch
somebody
football
who doesn't watch sports at all.
at all. She's like, "What is he doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
Jump throws.
Jesus.
They're playing without Travis Frederick. The offensive line's a little banged up right now.
And they also they lost Martin in the middle of the game, didn't they?
And we saw last year what Dak looks like.
Yeah,
when he doesn't have a complete offensive line.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Not good.
So yeah,
Not great.
so it was a lot of bad plays, and then he had his touchdown play where he rolled out of the pocket real comfortably and just casually tossed a touchdown to Terrence Williams. It's like, why can't you do that all the time?
Why is Terrence Williams?
And why
gotta be a
Terrence
thing?
Williams?
I don't know. So Dak was very kind of mixed bag in this one. Gallup was definitely his favorite target among the ones.
Good.
Rod Smith has this number 2 job locked down, and he's very effective, especially as a pass catcher. I think he sees work as a change of pace back anyway, and then if anything happens to Zeke, he is your handcuff 100%. Bo Scarborough, Darius Jackson are fighting for your number 3 spot. They were the second and third backs in. Both had nice plays. Of the two, though, I thought Darius Jackson was better, and then Scarborough did have a hip pointer issue by the end of the game. So I think Jackson may win this 3 job.
All right.
Gallup flashed the most of the top 3 receivers. As I mentioned, he had multiple nice catches in traffic. He's running exclusively with the wide receiver ones at this point. I think he may have this. Hearns was in the game longer than he was.
Yeah.
And then tight end order was, because this is just a mess, Swaim was running exclusively as a 1. Jarwin came in when they went to 2 wide receiver sets. He was used almost exclusively as a pass catcher, though. Swaim is used more as a blocker. Schultz was the third one in. He had 4 catches while he was in. Rico came in very late, had a very nice play where he ripped an interception out of a defender's hands.
Okay. So tight end situation's still a mess there.
Yeah, that's still a mess. I don't think you want anything to do with any of them unless you're in a 2 tight end, 16-team league like we're in.
How'd the other 2 quarterbacks look?
Ugly. Real ugly.
Rush and White both?
White still can't move away from pressure to save his life.
Well, we knew that.
We knew that already, though.
He is a statue.
More about the arm.
And Cooper Rush was very erratic.
That's the first time, I think, in 2...
Stack or bust.
It's the first time in 2 seasons of preseason games that I think there's been a bad review on Cooper Rush. So.
He did not look good in this one.
Yeah, he's looked good in every other time he's played. So.
Which I don't think I've actually watched Cooper Rush before, so this was my first Cooper Rush experience.
Oh, I've seen him play plenty.
Okay.
So
that's all I've got on that game. Dan, kick us off with Seahawks-Chargers.
Seahawks Chargers start up with the Seahawks. Did not play. Obviously for Rashad Penny and Doug Baldwin. Penny's broken, even though he sucks right now, and Baldwin is nursing his knee. As for Wilson himself, Wilson continues to do Wilson things. His offensive line is hot garbage, and he makes plays when he gets the chance to break containment. When he has a clean pocket, he hits receivers in stride like he typically does. Jerron Brown and something named David Moore have flashed, and they have become, I think, the 2 and 3 in this receiving core, both making big plays and both winning contesting catches. I think Brown had a touchdown on his second one. As for the running backs, Chris Carson got the majority of the first team work as he should. He looked good doing it.
Fantastic.
On his what should have been a touchdown run got called back. I think he broke like 2 or 3 tackles, accelerated to the next level, and just completely dominated.
He
that
made the
play.
defense. It was a holding call.
Yeah.
Back too.
And then I think in a series or 2 later, he fumbled on the goal line. So, yeah. Mike Davis is the second running back out there, though, and he got early work with the ones. Very little spelling work of Carson, but he was out there.
Same as it was last week.
And then of note, when they were running the 2-minute drill at the end of the first end of the first half, Davis got that 2-minute drill. It wasn't Carson out there. It wasn't Preseason or McKissick. It was Mike Davis. As for the other running backs, Preseason had all the second and third team work. He got all 6 of his targets, 35 yards. McKissick was out there as a 4th back, but he was returning kicks for most of that game. As for receivers, I just mentioned Jerron Brown, David Moore made their flashes. No one else stood out. Tight ends didn't really stand out this game. Nick Vannett had 2 catches, caught one of them for just minimal gain. The other target he had was in the red zone. Any questions, comments, concerns on Seattle? Pretty chocolate.
I mean, a lot of concerns, but nothing.
There's a lot of concerns.
McKissick, he's going to be out for about a month to 6 weeks.
Yeah, with the broken foot
injury suffered at practice today.
Yeah, we talked about that last episode.
Yeah, we did all the news in the last episode, so that stuff we already covered.
One thing we didn't cover, though, Doug Baldwin, Pete Carroll came out earlier and said he expects him to be ready to go week 1.
Yeah, that's coach speak, though, and I don't believe Pete Carroll as far as I can throw him. I am glad to hear Vannett got a red zone target, though. Any Brandon Marshall sightings?
Nope. I don't think he played.
No, he played.
Is he played?
He got targeted.
I must have been when I stopped watching the game.
He didn't catch anything, but he definitely played. No, he played early.
Okay.
Okay.
Not enough for even.
I saw him out there.
All right.
I am watching these games pretty quickly.
He didn't stand out at all, but I saw him out there.
Okay.
All right, on to the Chargers.
Chargers. The only thing that play is potentially Eckler, which is going to make a lot more sense when they get to the second running back behind Gordon. But to start with the quarterbacks, Rivers looked like he's in midseason form. He played for, I think, all of the first quarter, went 6 of 7, but started out 6 of 6 for 89 yards. As I said, just played the first quarter. Geno Smith came in, played okay, but you can't expect much out of Geno Smith, and we don't want to see Rivers get hurt because we don't want to see Geno Smith be a thing again. As for the running backs, Gordon is in midseason form, 10 carries, 35 yards, and a touchdown. Doing that scolding 6.5 yards per carry.
That's 3.5 yards per carry.
3.5 yards per carry. I can't even. We can't add math. We can't do math here, folks. So then he also added two catches for 18 yards. Then the backup, I think it's Detrez Newsome.
Either way,
he played the majority of the game. He was the bell call for this game. 19 carries, 78 yards. He looked okay. He averaged over 4 yards per carry. He got involved in the pass game. I think he had 3 targets. It was nice to see a team actually give somebody a bunch of looks. I didn't watch it deep into like the first 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So I didn't see any of Justin Jackson or anybody else, but it was all
I watched the game. There wasn't really anything that Jackson flashed. I mean, he was all right, but nothing fantastic.
Yeah. I don't think he's a thing, but just of note to see somebody gets this type of work. As for the receivers, Keenan Allen led all receivers with 4 targets. Tyrell caught his lone target for 21 yards. Mike Williams made a beautiful work of his only target as well, a contested catch from Geno Smith. That was just phenomenal. But Williams, I didn't see him on the field until after the ones came off. So it looks like Tyrell has separated himself maybe a little bit more if there was some concern with that. And then Travis Benjamin also got on the field before him, but that was very minimal. And I think in terms of snap-wise, he was barely out there. And then tight ends didn't do shit.
Yeah, I think Mike may have the number 2 job by the end of the season, but I think to start the season, it is going to be Tyrell.
Yeah.
Who has the worst tight end group, the Chargers or the Cowboys?
Chargers.
Oh, man. If the Chargers can find a way to take Rico Gathers away from the Cowboys, I'd be more interested.
Right?
I mean, like, that just make my mouth water and moist. And all
I always
the
say the best thing for anybody to do for Rico Gathers is hooking them up with Antonio Gates.
Yeah,
They
that
both
would be
have
fantastic.
the basketball backgrounds. It's a perfect mentor. He needs a mentor to teach him how to transition to a full NFL tight end.
Yeah.
And I don't think that player's on the Cowboys.
Well,
And
the
Jason
Cowboys,
Witten's a different type of player.
well, the Cowboys want to make him wanting to be a better blocker, so he puts on a shit ton of more weight to try to be more of that, and that's not his role. So why try to make him into that too?
Right.
Yeah, it's a coaching thing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a move tight end that could be a dominant move tight end, and you want him to block better. No, you just rotate him out.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham's made a career on not being able to block.
Yeah, and it's not like you have a bunch of pass catchers there who are demanding targets.
Right.
There's no reason not to have Gathers in if he can be a good move tight end.
Yep.
All right. But enough about that. Is that all we got for the Chargers?
Yes.
All right. 49ers at the Texans.
All right, kicking it off with the 49ers. Nick's got me saying kicking it off way too much. Marquise Goodwin, Jimmy Garoppolo connection is more than real. They connected multiple times, multiple levels, showcasing tons of trust. Out routes, deep routes, it didn't matter. He was more used than Pierre Garçon. He's rising up rankings, very clearly becoming the one here. That rapport is definitely there for those two.
We talked about that on Monday's episode, I believe.
Yep. Well, it's still very much a thing. Speaking of Garoppolo, he's incredibly sharp. His one bad throw is a high ball that was tipped by Garçon and picked off. Other than that, he looked spot on. Trent Taylor ran with the ones over Dante Pettis. Taylor was solid. Pettis flashed his agility and overall ability and extended time with the 2s and 3s. They want to take a longer look at him. Also looked very good in the punt return game. And then on the running back front, Jeremy McNichols looked a lot better than Joe Williams.
Yes.
He got a longer look before finally relegating Williams to the bench. So they started out kind of alternating roles, and then Williams just disappeared. Then he showed back up late in the game. But McNichols, he had one bad drop. Other than that, he was solid. Didn't really do anything special, but not a lot of negative plays. Reliable in the passing game. He did enough to look good. Not amazing, but good. So anything Anything else on the 49ers? Questions, comments, concerns, ideas?
No, and I wasn't trying to correct you or anything. I was just trying to do shameless self-promotion of go check out Monday's episode for more Goodwin talk.
Oh, yeah. No, I know that.
So it sounds like Garoppolo had a far better week 2 game than week 1.
Yeah, he looked pretty spot on. Like I said,
Good.
The one throw was admittedly high. Garcon had to go up and try to make a tough catch on it and ended up tipping it to the defender when he did that.
Yeah.
Garcon looked all right, but the connection was definitely clearly between Garoppolo and Goodwin.
Good.
Yeah, Goodwin has jumped Garcon in my rankings, and I think Hopper, you said you've done the same.
He did jump him by 2 spots, and he's going to go up even more.
I already moved them, and I'm probably going to move them up.
If this continues into week 3.
How far up are you guys have him?
He's my, because I'm doing a draft now, he's my 34. I have him 1 spot ahead of Garcon, and that's probably going to change as I bump Garcon down more.
I'm checking for you right now. I think he's 2 spots ahead of Garcon for me.
I mean,
I
he
have
flashed.
him as my wide receiver for 25.
Oh,
Ooh.
I love it.
I do love it.
Dude, I'm all in on Marquise Goodwin. He's another one of my players
So-
that I liked. Even back to Buffalo when he was still trying to qualify for the Olympics. And they had, can you believe the Buffalo Bills had Marquise Goodwin, Robert Woods, and Sammy Watkins at the same time?
Yeah.
I can because I remember that, and now looking back, it's quite sad.
So Goodwin's my 29 right now.
So we're going to do something fun, because I'm just about on the pick. Jamison Crowder or Marquise Goodwin?
I have
Ooh.
Crowder 2 spots higher.
I still would take Crowder.
Yeah,
That's getting closer.
I was like, let's have some fun, because I'm up. I'm taking one or the
That's
other.
not even close.
I faded Garcon to 35. I've got Goodwin at 29.
Okay.
Crowder is my 26.
He's my 27. I love Crowder. We're a pro Crowder show here, Anthony. we and the connection that he's been able to build with
and
Smith.
PPR.
And yes, this is a full point PPR league.
All right. Moving on to the Texans, Ryan Griffin was the first team tight end for Houston. Steven Anderson was the 4th. You had Akins and Thomas splitting in between. Griffin had several nice catches, though. So just something to watch. I mean, you're not drafting him, but he could be a viable streamer later on as long as he keeps his brains from being scrambled.
So yeah, as I hinted in week 1, if you own Steven Anderson, because I know he was considered a favorite to win this tight end
him.
job,
Cut him.
He's done.
He's done.
So more interesting on the wide receiver side than who played and flashed was who didn't play. Hopkins, Fuller, Kiki, QT all set this one out. Bruce Ellington, on the other hand, looked fantastic. He was the top-rated wide receiver that did play, but he was out of the slot, chunking away some yak, had some really nice catch and runs. Like, he looked good, and, I want to see QT. I thought it was interesting that he was sitting with Fuller and Hopkins, who were pretty...
Cooty's also been banged up.
That's probably why. So, Bruce Ellington, I think, might have an inside track at the number 3 job here, though, and will end up as the number 2 because Will Fuller is a shit wide receiver. Pardon my French.
I love it.
Deshaun Watson, though, he was really accurate. He did most of his damage from the pocket. I don't think I recall seeing him take off even once. He was purely standing in as a pocket passer, and he looked good doing it. And then my last note on this game, Houston's announcers were way too excited about a late preseason win because Houston won it on the last touchdown, and you would think that they won the Super Bowl.
They haven't seen a lot of winning the last few years. They may just be.
They need some.
They need
some love.
But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. I don't think I have much to add outside of Ellington has been kind of piquing my interest lately.
He flashed a little bit last year, too,
Flashed
when he had a
last year,
chance.
too, before he got hurt.
I actually dropped Cootie out of my rankings, and Ellington has shown up in them.
That's coming if I haven't done it already. I really don't remember.
All right. Last game of the week. It was the Monday night game. Ravens at the Colts. Sorry, Dan.
No, we're good. So the only did not play for the Ravens with Alex Collins, which actually helped, kind of showcase the Buck Allen versus Kenneth Dixon that we've been seeing here. But let's start with the quarterbacks. Flacco, in midseason Flacco form, a lot of checkdowns. The first play of the game was a play action bomb to John Brown that he just missed. So Flacco's arm looks to be completely all right, and if John Brown can stay healthy, he could be a
lot of hype
there, and warranted too. And then as for Lamar Jackson, he is nowhere near ready to be a starting quarterback. He struggled. I think he went 7 of 15. He did have a nice touchdown though. He did settle down in the second half. I got to see the accuracy and the patience, and then that velocity finally show up. When he first took over, though, it was fucking gross. Touchdown pass went to Chris Moore near the back of the end zone. As for the running backs, which is I think my biggest highlight point, Buck Allen got the start. Looked good. Finished 3 of 19 on the ground. Caught both his targets for 11 yards. He strictly played with the ones. Dixon spilled them a couple times, but not much. He played mostly with the twos. He led the team with 4 targets. He caught 3 of them for 24 yards. Also finished 6 of 32 on the ground. And as I said, saw most of his work with the twos, but he did have some time in with the ones. And then Gus Edwards, he didn't do anything. At least not enough for me to even put notes on, as he was just a third back out there.
He's just a person.
Yeah, he's just at this point, yeah. As for the receivers, your main 3 of Crabtree, Brown, and Snead, you had 5 targets combined between them. Crabtree had 1 target, 27 yards. Snead had 2, only caught 1 for minimal gain. John Brown had the 2 highlight targets, at least. The first one was a play action bomb that was a near miss. Second one was a nice touchdown reception where he tiptoed the back of the end zone, and you got the Flacco at least got to showcase something. And you got to see the warranted of the John Brown hype. As for the other receivers, Jordan Lasley had 4 targets. Caught one of them for 8 yards and had a horrendous drop after a, oddly enough saying, as RG3 had a beautiful throw to him, and Lasley just let it hit his hands and just fall to the ground.
Lasley will do that.
I was like, all right, man. That's why you're running with the 4s. As for the tight ends, Nick Boyle got the start, made 1 nice catch, drew a penalty, which isn't shocking at all. Hayden Hurst came in only after the 2, only with the 2s. But you're starting to see him and Jackson are continuing their connection, but he's not playing with the ones at all. That's the Ravens. Any questions?
Any Jaleel Scott sighting?
He had 1 target.
Any
late.
Mark Andrews sighting?
He had 1 target as well. Late. He came in late 4th. So he's buried there. I didn't see any Max Williams. I'm assuming he's hurt because
It's Max
water
Williams.
is wet. So
So it sounds like Jaleel Scott's probably getting cut.
practice squad, I think. I think he could be. You're probably right.
I can't wait for the cut episode.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of
The
fun.
Cut Down Spectacular. That's always a good
Yes.
episode.
How much do you guys like Willie Snead?
Less than John Brown after the way things have been going.
To me, he's an interesting bounce back candidate. I think that he needed to get out of New Orleans. I thought that he was, good year before last. I think he's got a decent chance to rebound, but I'm cautious about it. I'm Brown's ahead of him.
Yeah, and there could be targets there, as I've talked about with Collins on the previous episode. This team runs a lot of offensive snaps, and so if you can stay on the field and draw targets, you can produce.
I think they're 3rd in the league over the last 5 years in total offensive plays, and Flacco has been typically, when he's been healthy, has been top 5, top 3 in pass attempts.
Yeah, he's usually 600 plus.
They target the shit out of people there.
With all the health concerns with John Brown, I've been taking Willie Snead in some of my deeper leagues.
And that's fine too. I haven't seen much, I haven't heard much from his camp either.
I think it's encouraging that you've made it through training camp without any injury news on John Brown. Though.
That is, especially with all the
good start.
Yeah, let's not
jinx it with the week 3 coming up here.
And then as for the last team in week 2 that we get to talk about are the Colts. Did not play with T.Y. Hilton. If he did, I did not see him at all, and I think we would have. Luck struggled. The Ravens defense just made a mockery of this offensive line for the majority of the game. Luck played a quarter and a half. I believe he finished 6 of 11 and had a pick and some yards. It was brutal. And the pick he threw was a completely forced throw. It's a poor decision making in the red zone right after a turnover, because there was a shit ton of turnovers in this game. Because you can just tell that Luck's kind of still figuring his shit out. Something that Luck has always done, though, so it's not that surprising. Brissett came in afterwards, played the majority of the game. He looked slightly better against lesser competition, but again, the Ravens defense made a hell for both him and Luck throughout that game. As for the running backs, which is where the real shit starts, Christine Michael got the start. Look meh. He got a lot of extended time. Looked better against the twos as the game went along, which makes sense. Josh Ferguson had made a brief sighting but didn't do anything. Jordan Wilkins was the third running back out there. He fumbled. That led to a Charles Rogers touchdown recovery in the end zone. So not much there. Himes was mostly kick returns. He also fumbled one that started off the second half.
That was his 4th fumble in 2 preseason games.
Yeah, there's Hines is probably going to be practice squad, I think, at this point.
They can't risk him going to practice squad.
Okay,
He'll just be buried.
That's true. He's going to have to be buried. I mean, there's so much shit going on here. They need Marlon Mack to get healthy, because it sounds like he's been the only one flashing on this Colts backfield. Nobody else stood out. As for the receivers, Chester Rogers led the team, led all first-team receivers with 4 targets, taking over that wide receiver 1 spot just because T.Y. Hilton didn't play. He looked okay. Not much there. Ryan Grant had 2 targets and a horrible bad drop, so nothing shocking there. As for the tight ends, which is more of our happy notes, both Doyle and Ebron saw 4 targets. Ebron caught all of his. Doyle caught 2. But Ebron saw most of his work. It was in 2 tight end sets with the 1s, and then saw extended work with the 2s after Doyle went out.
I'm just happy he caught all his targets.
Yeah, and I think 2 or 3 of them were crossing routes. And, nothing went huge because the offensive line didn't give anybody time, at least not until the 2s and 3s came in.
Any other wide receiver flash at all?
No, dude, it was a pain to watch.
All right.
So, do you have some concerns about luck with just how ugly the receiving game
If
is?
T.Y. Hilton's not playing, there is a lot of concern. This offensive lineups look bad. Now, Baltimore's got a good defense, got a good front 4, and I think they tend to want to show up a little bit more in preseason anyways, but Luck has rust, and he did take a couple of nice licks, so it's good to see him get back up, take it off. Suggs had a nice sack on him. But there is some concerns if he doesn't have T.Y.
All right. Well, that is enough time on all that. That is wrap putting a bow on week 2. Let's hit a beer review, and then we have My Mind is Telling Me No.
Beer review.
And you guys almost took so long that I almost finished my beer.
I did finish mine. I've been out of mine for like 10 minutes.
All right, so we've got Saugatuck Brewing's Neapolitan Milk Stout out of blanked on the name. I know it's Michigan.
Michigan. Saugatuck,
I like Davis?
Saugatuck, Michigan.
Douglas.
I knew it was the D.
What'd you guys think?
It's very good. His first stout, I don't think it was quite as heavy as most stouts are. Definitely strawberry up front. You get some of the chocolate notes in the middle. The vanilla didn't really jump out a whole lot to me.
Kind of just a general kind of creaminess towards the back end.
Yeah, more of a mild flavor, more creaminess towards the back end. But the chocolate and strawberry are definitely prominent. It's one of the easiest drinking stouts I've ever had, though. It's a little bit sweeter. The milk stout gives it the creaminess, but yeah, it's very good. Mine was, I had to slow down because mine was 3/4 of the way gone before we were done with the beer preview.
Always a good start.
I was extremely excited for this, and it's the front end taste. Something just doesn't seem right for me. I want to like this beer more.
I'll take yours.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate it. I'm not as excited as you guys are about this. As much as I would have loved to have been, there's just something off for me, especially in the front end. But the back end does get the coffee and chocolate notes to it.
I mean, I think this is excellent.
I do too.
It's an interesting stout. It's not the same thing you've always had. It tastes like dessert in a bottle.
It does. It's fantastic. Strawberry out the ass up front.
Oh yeah, real heavy.
Maybe
on the
that's what
strawberry
it
up front.
is. Maybe that's what it is.
You're not
Just-
used to tasting that in beers, and especially not stouts.
Yeah, so there's probably more. So if I had a couple more, I'd probably enjoy it, and I would if I had this, just because I want to like it.
All right,
Who bought this? Was this you?
that was me.
Okay.
I'll get it at work.
I won't try for the last one then.
All right, so that is enough for that. Thank you very much, Saugatuck, for jumping on. Let's go ahead and do My Mind is Telling Me No.
You guys ready? It's the one time you get to enjoy this year.
Yep.
My mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yes.
I don't see nothing wrong.
So these are the players that you just can't help yourself,
Thank you. With a little bit of bump and grind.
and you just gotta take them a little bit early
Mm-hmm.
than their ADP. We're going to kick it off here with round 1. These are guys who are going in round 2 of ADP who you just have to take in the first round. Now, it's not going to be as big a jump in the first couple rounds as we'll get in the later rounds. But we got to let's start off with the guest host. You haven't had a ton to talk about so far. So, Anthony, who is your guy that's going in the second round that you have to take in the first?
According to this ADP, I see Kareem Hunt has fallen to the second round. Am I going off the right ADP here on the link?
I will double check, but
he
probably.
he was 201 when I looked last night.
Okay, yeah, and Kareem Hunt's my guy. I'm kind of buying Kareem Hunt more than I am Dalvin Cook. I think people are overlooking the fact that Pat Mahomes is still entering his first real season as an NFL starter, and this offense will still very much run through Kareem Hunt. Now, Spencer Ware's still going to get his touches, but I think he's going to be more of a quality RB2 than really digging into Hunt's workload, to where I can see Latavius Murray eating into Dalvin Cook's more.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt was almost my answer because he is actually, I forgot to update my rankings. Allen is actually my 11 now. Hunt would be my 12, so this would be the other answer I could have possibly kicked out. So I definitely agree with you there. Hunt, I think, should be a first-round pick as he is my number 12 now.
Yeah, I thought about putting Kareem Hunt here as well, and to me, it was just a matter of Keenan Allen, if he's healthy, is more of a sure thing. I agree with the other points. I think Latavius Murray is a threat to Dalvin Cook's workload. I think I would rather have Kareem Hunt than Dalvin Cook because he has a year under his belt. I'm not concerned about Spencer Ware. I've taken Kareem Hunt at the 110 in several drafts.
Yeah, I mean, I've been the lowest on the show on Hunt, and even I've come around. Hunt's my 13. I'm shocked with where he is, and I have no issues. If a league, like if I want to go more running back at the back end of the first round, I have no problems going with Kareem Hunt. And if you can do like a Kareem Dalvin Cook type of combination there, if you want to go running back heavy, I would be all for that.
I would definitely like that start. But the three of us all put Keenan Allen as our jump guy.
Yeah, 9.93 targets a game last season. You got the Hunter Henry injury to concern yourself with. Mike Williams, Tyrell Williams haven't really flashed. They flashed some, but not a whole lot this preseason.
They're not going to take
They're not
targets from him.
No, I think he's just clearly the one. The volume's going to be there. Him and Rivers, after he kind of knocked the rust off, really connected at the end of last season. So, if I'm drafting into the first round, I'm definitely looking Keenan Allen at the back end there.
Yep. Yeah. He was my flag guy in last episode. I gave you all the reasons why. Love Keenan Allen. Definitely all over that in the back end of the first round.
I had one honorable mention. That was Michael Thomas. That's because I'm higher on the Saints offense as
No, Michael Thomas was almost my answer.
Yeah, and like for me, it's just tough to pick from this type of pool this early on.
Yeah, there's only 12 guys who can go in the first round.
Definitely got easier the further down we got.
All right. So Dan, you're the only one who went different on this one, so I'll let you kick off your guy. Though this was almost my answer as well.
I went T.Y. Hilton. We're starting to even see more now that he is the lone guy here. It's going to be Hilton, Doyle, and probably Ebron with Rodgers. I don't see any running back taking target shares away. I don't see any other receiver doing so. And we've seen what Hilton can be with Andrew Luck at the helm, a top 5 wide receiver. He's not going to get maybe the touchdowns upwards to to double digits like other guys there, but you're getting a potential wide receiver one at the mid third round. I expect him to keep rising, but if Luck continues to show some of that rust and struggle, he may stay here, which makes him even more of a value.
Yeah, I like Hilton. As I said, he was almost my answer. Anthony Hopper and I all went with Jordan Howard. Anthony,
you guys did.
Why don't you kick us off with why you think Jordan Howard should be a round 2 pick?
In the past 2 seasons, or even since his rookie year, which I believe was 2 seasons, Howard has finished close to or as a back-end RB1.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to continue to be the focal point of that offense. I'm not completely sold, as I said earlier, on Mitchell Trubisky. And when you have a bell cow, that's how I see Jordan Howard, even though he's pretty much an empty in the passing game, Jordan Howard's going to get the bulk of the running back touches as far as on the groundwork.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead as a Bears fan here. So, Jordan Howard, exactly what you said, since the rookie season, he's busted off 2,000-yard seasons on just absolutely dismal offenses with poor offensive line play. Like Dan said earlier on, he's not a guy that's going to give you a ton of negative plays. But on the passing upside, people still want to knock him for the receiving work. He improved his catch rate by 20% last year, and he's been working his ass off in the offseason to get more comfortable with that, even though he did improve his catch rate by 20% year over year from year 1 to year 2. So I think that the Jordan Howard's a poor pass catcher is becoming, not there yet, but becoming an outdated argument is a reason to fade him. So just based on the improvements he made last year, the work he's put in this offseason to continue to improve, he has looked more comfortable in the preseason with it. So
yeah, and if you expect the offense to get better at all. It should help him out. It was one of the worst teams last year in terms of number of plays ran. It was terrible in offensive efficiency, and he still finished as a borderline RB1. If the offense even takes a slight uptick, he should benefit from it. He was top 15 in evaded tackles and breakaway run rate in both seasons. He's only going to benefit if this offense gets better.
I would have put down Jordan Howard, but I didn't want to copy Hopper twice. So
I was going to copy.
It was between him. It was between him and Hilton. I think.
I was going to copy
based on my rankings.
I was going to copy one of you too, so I went with Howard, who was my higher ranked player. All right, round 3. This is where we actually start
to get some variance here.
Yeah, I finally like. Hey,
I like them all though.
Though I think I agree with all 3. The only one I'd have to double check is Tellin. Anthony, why don't you kick us off with yours of Adam Tellin going at the 406?
Tellin got 140 targets last year. And again, I'm not extremely high on Dalvin Cook. And I also have Kirk Cousins as a bold prediction passing for 5,000 yards. And I say that meaning he doesn't have to finish as the top 3 quarterback to get to 5,000 yards. He threw for 4,900 roughly a few years ago with the Redskins and finished as a QB5. So he can throw all over the place. Dalvin Cook could still finish as a fringe RB1, and everybody could need on this offense.
Yeah, I definitely like Tellin. I think I just have him. I think I'm like right at the start of round 4, so I'm not quite there with you, but it's definitely real close. The other 2 from Dan and Hopper, I definitely agree with. Dan, why don't you kick us off with Alex Collins, who I mentioned in our previous episodes of my flag guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a show, we've been high on Collins, even dating back to the Dynasty conversations. We've been a Kid Addiction truther here, as a show, at least 2 of the 3 of us have, if not all of us. But Collins has continued to improve, and then everything around him is starting to kind of fall into place for him. The Ravens as an offense is getting better, which means more opportunity for him. The defense is obviously elite, so more opportunity for turnovers and easy kind of easy touchdowns from the red zone type of area and great field position. He's not a great pass catcher, but he didn't need to last year, and he finished as an RB1 at the back end of the season. Dixon's borderline after a nice game 2. He may still be on that roster bubble, but Buck Allen is not going to eat into his workload enough to not make him a viable RB2 for most teams at the 408.
All right. And then a guy who I'm pretty sure slipped because of injury concerns. Hopper, you got Doug Baldwin in the 3rd round.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I forgot to put him in my notes. Sorry. You're good. I forgot to put him in my notes. I had my 4th round guy next, and I was like, Anyway, Doug Baldwin is a guy that I think is going to see a ton of volume. Nobody's really stepped up in his absence to take really a stranglehold on the wide receiver 2 job in Seattle. I'm not concerned about him missing preseason with a knee injury. I think it's more precautionary. We've seen him play banged up before. He constantly ends up as a back end wide receiver 1. The defense projects to be a whole lot worse this year. I think Russell Wilson is going to have to pass a lot more than he ever has. I think Baldwin's going to be the main beneficiary of that. So it's a volume play for a guy that's finished as a back end wide receiver 1 the last 2 seasons at least. I'm all aboard the Doug Baldwin hype train, and the cheaper he gets because of this injury, the happier I am. So, I will definitely reach around to Doug Baldwin to take him in the 3rd. He's a guy that I was comfortable taking in the 2nd beforehand.
I mean, she was a wide receiver 1 for most of us, and that is still. You're getting that in the 4th round all fucking day.
Yeah, he's going early. I got him early in the 3rd right now. I've slid him ever so slightly with the knee just as a precaution.
Yeah, I have too, but I'll reach around him any day.
All right, and then I'll take a guy who's going late in the 4th, and I'll grab him in the late 3rd, and that's Demaryius Thomas, a guy who had 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons before last year when the entire quarterback play fell apart and the offense just went in the tank. I don't think Keenum is a game-breaking quarterback. I don't think he's going to lead this team to massive new offensive heights, but I think he's competent, and that's exactly what this team needs at this point. Is Sanders and Thomas need a competent quarterback to feed them the football, and they'll do enough with it to make it at least a decent offense. And I think Thomas can jump back into being a mid-sized wide receiver 2 from here on out. A guy I'm happy to take in the 3rd round.
I agree.
All right. Guys who are going round 5, we were willing to take in round 4. So Anthony and I doubled up. So Hopper, why don't you kick us off with yours?
All right. I think mine's Lamar Miller, assuming I didn't skip somebody else.
It is Lamar Miller.
It is Lamar Miller.
Okay, cool. Lamar Miller's a pure volume play for me. Look, even in preseason, he looks like Lamar Miller. He can't run for efficiency for Jolly Jack shit, but there's nobody there behind him that's going to take work from him. Deonta Foreman's going to start the season on the pup. At least it's probably next season before he's all the way back from the Achilles injury. Alfred Blues looked like crap. Levon Coleman had a good run and then immediately fumbled it away. So there's nobody here that's going to take work from Lamar Miller, which means he's easily a 220 plus touch back. If I'm looking for somebody that's just going to get volume more than anything, is just going to do it on volume with some goal line work, have some receiving upside, especially in half point PPR. Lamar Miller's safe. It's not sexy. It's not going to be pretty watching him do it, but he's like a modern day Frank Gore. He's going to get it done. Just as a running back two, not a running back one.
I agree completely. There's a lot of leagues where Lamar Miller is my running back two, and I took him in the 4th or early 5th round.
I'm okay with that just because of volume.
All right.
I think for all these years, Lamar Miller has been overvalued. And now he's just settling into where he should be taken.
Yeah, maybe even a little late at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you've been, any of our listeners that have been listening for the 2 years that we've been doing this, last year I hated Lamar Miller because his value was up in the 2nd round. Now with this value being where it is, I want Lamar Miller.
Yep. I don't hate any player. I hate their ADP, as I believe how the line goes.
Yep. Well, I hate some players, but most of the time it's just their ADP.
All right. Dan, you took one of Hopper's favorites for yours.
Well, I mean,
I left him.
he's like the no one love of it, but I've become lukewarm and not so up there with him on Royce Freeman. And a guy that should take the 1 and 2 role there in Denver, if not more. We've talked a lot about him. He's flashed this preseason. He's been far and away better than Devonta Booker. I don't know why Vance Joseph wants to make Devonta Booker a thing. You guys talked about it on Monday's episode, but even then, who cares? Royce Freeman is the guy. He needs to be the guy there, and I'm willing to take that chance, especially with this kind of RB2 to 3 range where everyone's either banged up or they just haven't performed. Guys like Collins and Royce and even Drake and Miller have shined a little bit more, and are now moving up because of that. And Royce is a guy who will be caught up. He will not be a 5th round pick. He's being taken in the 3rd and 4th more. That's why I was a little bit shocked that he was still that high.
Yeah,
he's coming up.
He's moving way up.
So NFL is on a weak leg, I think. So I think that's why maybe he's settled a little bit further down than you see on some other spots like FF Calc.
Yeah.
Anthony, you and I both answered Golden Tate. Anthony, why do you like Golden Tate in the 4th round?
So Golden Tate is a back-to-back 90 reception wide receiver. He's clearly Matt Stafford's number 1 read. And there are many plays that go designed to him. I'm not really buying into Kenny Galladay making that big of an impact. And that leaves only Marvin Jones because we don't know what they have at tight end yet. If there's any consistency on the Detroit Lion offense, it's Golden Tate.
Yep, I put he's one of the safest players in fantasy. He's going to get you 90-plus receptions, 800 to 1,000 yards, or maybe even a little bit more on top of that, and about 5 touchdowns.
Right around 120 targets, too.
Yep.
Most of the time.
Pretty consistently. And I think he actually missed a back. I think it's been 4 straight years he's had 90-plus receptions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely love Golden Tate. Big fan of his. And if I can grab him as my wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 as just kind of a safe play, I'm going to feel real comfortable sleeping with that at night.
He's my wide receiver 2 in this draft I'm doing right now.
Don't get too excited, Dan.
I know.
All right, round 5. All right, Anthony and I doubled up again, so Anthony seems to be on the same wavelength that I am. Hopper, why don't you kick us off?
All right, I had one of Dan's favorites. Dan and I just switched people from the My Guys episode. I got Dion Lewis here.
Yeah, right.
He's got, so the Titans, well, not the Titans, sorry. Matt LaFleur's offense last season, 80-plus targets to running backs. Henry's never had a season of 20 or more targets. Dion Lewis peripherals as far as breakaway run, juke rate, evaded tackles were all absolutely excellent. The key for him is staying healthy, but I think he gets DeMarco Murray levels of, touches, honestly. And I think that he makes the most out of those. I'd rather own him than Derrick Henry in most spots. I think he's the more dynamic back. I think he's the more explosive back. And I think that he's an incredible value.
All right. Dan, your guy you're going to willing to reach on in the 5th round.
I know you guys are not as nearly as high as Michael Crabtree as I am. More so the fact that the number 1 receiver in Baltimore's offense has tend to produce wide receiver 2 to 3 numbers. You saw it with Steve Smith. You saw as far back as Anquan Bolden. Joe Flacco isn't in the place that he was last year, and the offense in itself is I want to say a lot better, but it is better. And Crabtree's going to benefit from that. Flacco's going to be able to benefit from that. There's not a lot of options in the red zone when you get down there, as they don't really have a true option at tight end. Crabtree, fits a mold of a perfect red zone type of receiver. He may not have the same, athletic ability as he had a few years ago, but you've seen, 30-year-old receivers have renaissance here with Baltimore. And yes, John Brown is flash, but as we've talked about earlier, there's a lot of targets to go around and a lot of offensive plays in general that's going to help Crabtree bump up those numbers, even if he isn't as efficient with them.
All right. And then, Anthony, you and I both want Marshawn Lynch in this round. What do you like about Marshawn Lynch?
Yeah, I was down on the Raiders offense as a whole. And Marshawn Lynch, the more I dug deep, he was misused in 2017 until the second half of the year when they started feeding him touches. And then you saw Marshawn Lynch play like the Marshawn Lynch of old. He was one of the top-ranked players in broken tackles. I think Lynch is going to bounce back. There's not really anything else on this depth chart that I'm worried about at running back. Doug Martin, 2.8 yards per carry last year. He was one of the most boneheaded signings of the offseason. And to contend from catching passes, it's going to be Jalen Richard. Outside of that, it's Marshawn Lynch's backfield.
Yep. Note I had is after week 8, where they kind of took the handcuffs off him a little bit. So from week 9 through 16, he was 625 yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground, 16 receptions for 113 yards, total good for 111.8 fantasy points in 8 games, or 13.98 per game. Over a full season, he would have been the running back 11 if he'd maintained that pace. The second half of the season for him was awesome.
Yep.
And the Raiders' offensive line is still top 10.
If not even like top 3.
Yeah, they're gonna be good. As long as Derek Carr can get his head together.
Yeah, that's something I got more questions on, but at least Lynch should be fine.
Yeah.
Moving on to round 6. Anthony, you picked a different one from me from this time, so why don't you kick us off with Marquise Goodwin, who we talked a little bit about earlier.
Listen, I'm all in on Marquise Goodwin. I loved when he was at a value for most of the offseason, but ever since camp started and he's got to showcase what he can do with Jimmy Garoppolo, his ADP is beginning to rise, and he's one of those players I'm going to reach for. I think his upside is top 20 if everything clicks. I mean, you saw what he could do last year without Garoppolo, and he became that more efficient with Jimmy for the last 7 games.
Yeah, I'm definitely, as we talked about earlier in the segment or the episode here, we've all pushed Goodwin in front of Garcon. This won't make you happy, Anthony, but I saw a draft today where somebody took Goodwin at the 412 spot.
Wow.
Wow.
Bold cotton.
Wow.
Bold move.
Yeah.
All right, Hopper. Kirk Cousins. We don't seem to love him enough.
Yeah.
Really?
Everybody's got to get their love in for Kirk Cousins. I agree with Anthony. I think that he could go for 5,000 yards this season. He's got excellent weapons. He had 4,900 year before last, over 4,000 last year. Last year he did it with no weapons and no offensive line. He's made a lot out of nothing, and now he actually has weapons around him. He has the ability to succeed. I think his touchdown rate's going to go up. He's got a tight end that's actually 1, productive, and 2, going to be healthy, along with 2 exceptional wide receivers. Kirk Cousins is my quarterback 4. I think he's tremendously underrated, and I will gladly take him into the 6th round if I'm going to spring a little early on a quarterback.
People knock Cousins because of the Minnesota defense. And you talk about game script, but in 2018 National Football League, since when does a team with a capable quarterback like Kirk Cousins with those weapons, since when do they take the foot off the throttle?
They won't.
They generally don't, and it's going to be hard to, especially in the NFC North.
Yeah, and it might also give him some more short field opportunities where he can actually bump his touchdown rate up.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we haven't talked about couldn't just do it with just one Broncos receiver. Dan wants to bring up a second one. So tell us about why you want Emmanuel Sanders in the 6th round.
Because for Case Keenum, he loves to target his number 1 and 2. We saw last year when Diggs and Thielen when Diggs was healthy, when Diggs was healthy, you saw heavy dose of both Diggs and Thielen. You're going to see the same thing here, as Demaryius Thomas and Sanders may not be quite on the same level as those two right now, but they're still very capable receivers. As we just seen from this past preseason week, Sanders had 7 targets. Keenum's going to target a guy who factors to play a lot like Thielen in terms of working over the middle and down the field. Sanders is going to give you that type of value and a guy that you can feel comfortable with and safe with if you go running back heavy and you need more floor receivers and the big boom bust type of receivers.
All right, I agree. He was a guy who was on my list as well. I got to go with Tevin Coleman for mine, though. He's my number 57 overall player, so I'd be willing to take him for sure in the 5th round. He's going at the 708. For him overall, he's back-to-back top 22 seasons. He has the advantage of being a top 10 to 12 back. If anything did happen to Freeman, there's just no reason he should be falling to round 7 with the potential upside he has and the floor. He is going to be a running back too.
Mm-hmm. He's ultra efficient when he's ultra efficient, and he has a notes for the end zone. I think he has 19 touchdowns the last 2 seasons, and though he doesn't get the volume that he should, he tends to make the most of it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his, and the fact that he's going in round 7 or round 8, I guess round 7 is ridiculous. Moving on to round 7 here, we're going to do 3 more and wrap this up here. Anthony, why don't you kick us off with Rex Burkhead, who's going in 801.
Listen, I'm all in on Rex Burkhead. He's another one of those players that I love since he signed with New England Patriots last offseason, and you've seen what he can do when he can stay healthy. And now with Sony Michel, we don't know what his health is. We don't know anything beyond Rex Burkhead and James White in this backfield. And I think if Burkhead can stay on the field, he could potentially be a huge impact player because of his versatility. He could run in between the tackles. They can line him up in a slot. They can literally line him up anywhere on this offense. You could put Sony Michel and Rex Burkhead on the field at the same time.
And with the receiving core, they may have to. That's kind of turning into a bit of a mess there.
Needs to get a little healthy, but Burkhead could pay a lot of dividends.
And he seems to be in better shape than
back.
Michel.
He's returned to practice. I mean, all systems go right now.
Which is good, which is what we want to see. I'm a big Burkhead White guy here if I don't take anybody from the Patriots.
All right. Hopper, big surprise for you.
Cooper Kupp. I haven't given him enough hype this offseason. I don't think he's kind of fallen.
Kind of quiet on him.
I have been kind of quiet on him, but reports out of camp. So you haven't seen the Rams' first team offense on the field at all yet in preseason. Him and Goff have something special brewing. Him and Goff showed good rapport last season. He targeted Kupp in the red zone. He targeted Kupp when he really needed that reception. And here at the end of the 7th round, or in the 7th round, honestly, which would be the round I'm reaching, I'm looking for safety at that point, and Cooper Kupp to me is one of the safest wide receivers that you could possibly own, just with the role that he plays in that offense and then the rapport that him and Goff have. Not a lot, and I don't think there's a ton of upside to him. It's maybe marginable, but the floor is super high, and that's what I'm looking for as a guy I can plug in on bye weeks, injury replacement at this point in the draft. Cooper Kupp's my favorite person in that role.
Especially if you started, say, running back heavy, or maybe you went wide quarterback tight end a little bit earlier than you normally would have. Grabbing him as a flex or a wide receiver 3 type role is a great spot here in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you've got a guy I've grabbed in quite a few drafts to save me at the running back position.
Yeah, so Duke Johnson, we always, hammer home about this Cleveland backfield and about how crowded it is. Well, Carlos Hyde isn't a great pass catching back. He's pretty below average at it. He was only using it last year because nobody else could really play that role. That's not Nick Chubb's role. He's a 1-2 down thumper. Those who are going to eat into each other's work, well, Duke Johnson's going to see all the 3rd down work. He's very capable of being a in-between tackles runner. Carlos Hyde really isn't a model of good health outside of last year. He tends to miss a couple games. And Johnson was an RB1 last year just because of that type of role. He may not get that type of volume this year, but in a guy that you can get, in the 8th round with 7th round type of value, if not even more so, a guy that can save your roster if you go 0 RB, or a guy that you can have as a flex, RB4 if you're, running back heavy and you're looking for even safe with, a lot of boom upside to him.
All right. My guy's going to be real simple. I think you should go grab Chris Thompson in the 7th round. He's currently going at the back end of the 8th. I think he's probably the most dynamic pure pass catching running back in the NFL who can carry it between the tackles if you have to. 11th in points per game last year before his injury. I have a little bit of concern about his recovery from the process, but everything's pointing to him playing week 1 without issues there. It might just be a little bit slightly lower workload for him. He's going in for where he's going at the back end of the 8th round. I'm happy to take him in the 7th as a running back 3, running back 4 type role for me.
Are you concerned at all about his workload?
Not with the other.
Gruden has come out and said numerous times this is what he's going to get because we're concerned about his durability.
He was so efficient with his touches that the workload he's going to get, I'm fine for where I'm drafting him there in the 7th round. If he just started jumping up into like the 6th or 5th, I might be concerned. But in the 7th, I'm all over that.
And I like him with Alex Smith because Smith is a guy that likes to work the running backs in the check down game, and they don't really have anybody else that can do that.
Yeah, they don't.
Chris Thompson.
Unless Capri Bibbs is going to start catching a lot of passes. They don't have a lot of
He's
a real good pass catcher.
Just a lesser version of Thompson.
Yeah, you're not going to try to convince me that Peterson, Pirine, or Kelly are going to be pass catchers. All right, round 8, second to last round we're going to do here. Anthony and I doubled up, so Dan, kick us off with your guy. Big guy for you.
Yeah, so we love talking about Jamison Crowder here. He's building that rapport with Alex Smith. He's playing the over-the-middle role that you got to see Smith build rapport with Travis Kelce. I get it. We've seen, Jeremy Maclin not have the type of seasons, or wide receivers have those type of seasons, but he doesn't really have a tight end like Travis Kelce there. When Jordan Reed's healthy, yes, but he's never healthy. And even then, so you've heard reports from Cam that him and Crowder have been able to build that rapport. Crowder is a little banged up, but if I'm taking a flyer pick in the middle of the rounds here, a guy that has wide receiver 2-3 upside almost every week because of that floor. He came on late last year. First half was a bit ugly, but then when he got healthy, you got to see that wide receiver 2 build with Cousins.
All right, Carson, you're a round 8 guy that's drafting going round 9 or later.
You just called me Carson.
Oh, Hopper, tell us about your Carson.
So it is Chris Carson, just because we know Nick can't ever keep one of these mystery segments straight, even though this one really isn't a mystery. We talked about him, was it earlier this episode that we reviewed the Seahawks game? I don't remember now. It's all been long. It's been a long night of recording. Anyway, he's running tough. He's running really well between the tackles. He's looked absolutely exceptional, like the bruiser back there missing last year. Rashad Penny, I'm not a fan of. He's not really flashed in preseason. Plus, he's hurt. Mike Davis has been all right. But I think Chris Carson is unquestionably cementing himself as the first option here. And is a guy that has, to me, Alex Collins levels of upside. I'll gladly take him this late. Is a dart throw.
Yeah, I've grabbed him as a wide receiver, as a running back 4 in a few spots around this point in the draft in round 8, round 9 type range, and I'm happy to continue doing so. All right, Anthony, we both took Randall Cobb. Why do you like Randall Cobb in the 8th round?
I like Randall Cobb.
You love Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb is very much opportunity dependent, and if he can stay on the field, I know he's missed 5 games in the past 2 seasons. But Aaron Rodgers, he's openly complained now numerous times about his wide receiving core, and Cobb has been there the longest. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to lean on him in any type of points per reception format. Randall Cobb, he could have his best season in 2 years.
Yep. If he's played a full season, he's exceeded 100 targets, and he's always, when he's been the wide receiver 2. He's Hopper's gone through his episode when he was my guy. I'm not quite as all in Hopper. I got him as more of a high 3 as opposed to a low 2, but definitely like Randall Cobb, especially at the value he's going at. We've been harping this all off season. Go grab him in the 7th or 8th round. Don't let him slip to the 9th and let somebody get him. All right, last round we're going to do here. Anthony, why don't you kick us off with your first quarterback on the board that you want to take in round 9?
Jimmy Garoppolo, I've been infatuated with him ever since he lit up the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, because I'm a big Jacksonville Jaguars guy. I'm a big Jacksonville Jaguars defense guy. And for Kirk Cousins to for Jimmy Garoppolo to come out and do what he did last season, it was phenomenal. It proved a lot to me. And now a full offseason in this offense, a full offseason with these weapons, I think he's going to go off a top 5 QB1 upside.
All right. Hopper, you went for a rookie wide receiver for your last reach.
I did. DJ Moore, I think, is the wide receiver 1 on this team with talent, with his route running ability. And, really, I think Kelvin Benjamin's also was my other guy in contention here. But if I can go down in the 10th round and get somebody that's going to be the wide receiver 1 on any NFL team, just from a pure volume standpoint, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And, Kelvin Benjamin, we kind of know what he is. So the reason I went DJ Moore, he's a rookie. He's a high upside rookie. We know he can work the short game. He did it at Maryland. We know he's a good route runner, and we know the athletic abilities there. So I think that he's going to have probably more opportunity than almost any rookie wide receiver, to make something out of his rookie season. And, I'm taking him at this point is nothing more than an upside play. I don't have to rely on him. It's an upside play for a guy who has a very, very good shot and should be the wide receiver 1 in an NFL offense. So I'm absolutely going to do that at this point in time.
Yeah, round 9, he should be your wide receiver 3 at highest and probably close to your 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, James White, guy you've been leaning on all offseason.
Yeah, I mean, just with all the injuries in the backfield with, Michelle and the fact that he's, the banged up rookie that's going to take time to even get acclimated back into the offense once he's healthy. White's been that old reliable. We got to see that regression last year, but that was more so because of Dion Lewis coming in. He doesn't have that kind of player taking those later of the season work. And when someone like me who likes to go wide receiver heavy, typically, in my early picks of the draft, I like to lean on my pass catching running backs. We know what James White is. We know his role. Tom Brady loves to use him in those type of situations. And though they may not have a bunch of games where they're going to be, needing to throw a shit ton, they don't have a lot of running backs right now that can do it. Just be, a pure runner where White can now give you even more of that upside if you can get some more of those carries to go along with the PPR floor that we all know and love.
All right. Yeah, if you're looking for a safe pick, I definitely like James White, kind of in the same thought of Theo Riddick as we talked about. I forget if it was on Monday or last week, Friday's episode. My last guy who I'm going to talk about here, I'm willing to take a reach on in round 9, is Sterling Shepard. Finished as your wide receiver 24 in points per game last year. He's going as the 44th wide receiver off the board, and he's going in a Pat Shurmur offense that has shown that he can support 2 outside pass catchers and a tight end and a running back and have them all be productive. Thielen and Diggs were both top 15 in 2017. So I don't think he's going to be anywhere near a top 20 type finish, but I think he's at least going to be a safe wide receiver 3 for you, and he's going as a late wide receiver 4. Type of guy I like to grab for some value, and there's definitely some upside there for a guy who's entering his 3rd year and has proven it over his first 2 seasons.
I agree.
All right. Well, that puts a wrap on it for My Mind Is Telling Me No. Shout out to Fantasy Football Weekly for the idea for the Reach Around segment. It's a segment they've been doing for years, and I'm a big fan of. Hope that helps you guys some drafts, some guys you should be looking at once you get through some of those rounds there of players that may not be matching the ADP you guys are seeing on your list, but you may just want to grab and stash on your team before you head into your fantasy season. So thank you so much for listening. Anthony, thank you so much for coming on. You can find him at The Real NFL Guru. Do you want to give us one last shout out for some stuff we should be checking out from you?
Yeah, definitely. Not only check me out at The Real NFL Guru, but also check out my podcast at the FF Faceoff. We have content all over the place, YouTube, iTunes, and anywhere else that you can store a podcast right now.
All right. Thank you so much for jumping on, Anthony. I know this is a longer episode, but we enjoyed having you on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You can find us at Beerfield FF, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped. Find us wherever your podcasts are dropping if you prefer the audio. If you want to check us out on video, Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe there. Drop us any reviews, likes, comments you may have. That all helps us out. Individually, we got Dan Theory across the table from me.
At Theory BFF.
To my left is Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF with 2 P's. Have a good weekend, guys.
Yep, I'm at Nick Sparts. We will catch you guys next time.
Which is Monday.
On Beerfield Fantasy Football.
See ya.